I have a lot of clients that are in nutrition, mindful of the fact that I'm 35, and things start to change. But it's true, isn't it, Joe? And you being 21, you've still got to experience this.
Well, exactly.
Power to Live More with Joe Dodds.
Welcome to the Power to Live More podcast, all about productivity, organisation, well-being, energy and resilience. I'm Jo Dodds, and I started this show to enable interesting people to share their stories about how they use their power to live more, and by that I mean to do the stuff that they want to do more than the stuff that they need to or should do. It's about creating a life for yourself where you have the energy, health and space to be happy and fulfilled, spending your time as you'd like, whether that be at work, home or somewhere else entirely. That's your choice.
Hello. My name's Ellie Dodds and I'm co-presenter, and today Joe is interviewing Mark Sephton, international mentor to entrepreneurs. Joe thinks she and Mark met via LinkedIn, which seems to be the second most popular connection story after the lovely introductions from our serial connector, Paula Gardner. Mark's debut book, Inside Job, debuted in 2014 and has now resulted in his second book called Plot Twist, which launched in February 2017. Mark's love for entrepreneurship has been expressed through radio with his show Talk Business on Radio Plus Coventry. Mark is a regular contributor to Entrepreneur.com and has spoken on numerous business stages worldwide. Mark has taken the essence of what he has experienced and formed a business which helps draw out the magnificent potential each of us behold. Back to the studio.
Today I'm interviewing Mark Sephton of marksephton.com. Hi Mark, thanks for joining me.
Great to have the opportunity to speak to you and your audience. Always fun to do a podcast.
Yeah, well, you're very experienced, aren't you, at such things? So I'm sure that'll come out through the interview. So tell us a bit about you and what you do, and also where you do it, crucially.
Yeah, I mean, for me, everything I do is about influence. I want to influence people in a positive way. So if I would be really disappointed if people listen to this and don't take one thing that energizes them, focuses them, or gives them some kind of blueprint to doing things differently. I think, everything that I do, like I said, has that influence going through it. I write for Entrepreneur magazine. I have a radio show called Talk Business. I have a couple of books myself, and most of my focus is around mentoring entrepreneurs on a one-to-one level, and also within a group of masterminds. And I think, it's just great to be able to share some of my failings, some of my successes to an audience that, either when you put something out there, either resonates or it doesn't, and you've just got to find your 10%. You've just got to find the people that really like what you're about and what you have to offer, and not worry too much about being, something to everybody. And I think that's quite liberating. So I think often we all get caught in a trap and think, everybody's our client, and everybody's going to love us. And I always say you've got to go where the love is, Joe. And so, I think with anything, when you're putting yourself out there, you're going to get people that really resonate. And there's people that I think probably want to attack you to try and keep you, quiet and stifled in some ways. And you've just got to go where the love is.
I was listening to a guy called Sean Croxton yesterday. He does a daily quote show as a podcast, and he was saying that years ago he had a YouTube channel, and he was putting regular stuff out, and then he was having quite a lot of people sort of trolling him and saying horrible stuff, as well as the people that were saying really good stuff. And he eventually took it down. And then he said he went to an event and he heard somebody saying that, unless you have people who don't like what you do and who you are, then you're not, really showing up and doing anything of any value to the people who do, want to hear from you and so on. And that helped him kick off the rest of his career. And I thought that was really interesting, because I try to sort of avoid controversy online and that sort of thing. But you're right that, not everyone's going to like you. And actually, if you worry about those people who don't like you, then it probably stifles anything that you do, doesn't it?
Yeah. And some of those people, if they spent their energy, on actually developing their own life and bringing something of value rather than criticizing others, then, I think they would serve themselves well. It's just unfortunate, I think, that when you are putting yourself out there, people kind of get a kick out of trying to belittle. But I think it does take courage. But I think if you believe in who you are and believe in your message, then you've just got to keep going. And I guess some of the inspiration around why I do what I do is because I really want to actually pick those people up that have had, a difficult life, where they have been, spoken of it in a poor way and treated in a disrespectful way, and building up their own confidence and their own value. And so in some ways, without those people, maybe I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now, because I really just enjoy developing people, getting the best out of people, helping them believe, and creating the right environment for them to really kind of flourish. For me, that's a big part of why I do what I do, why I write, and why I have a radio show where I can kind of create a platform for people to share their story, which will engage, with their audience.
So tell us a bit more about sort of what a typical day looks like for you. And I know that probably there isn't a typical day. It's the same for the rest of us. But, how are you working with people? Are you working in their offices, in your office, in, online? How does that all play out?
Yeah, I mean, if you give me the choice, I always love to work with people face to face. I don't think you can ever replace that. I think both from my point of view and the person that I'm mentoring, I think, they're going to get, an extra 10% out of the sessions just because you can gauge emotion and read body language, and it's more kind of a coming together. Whereas obviously the power of the internet enables all of us to reach a global market, and I have quite a lot of clients in Canada and America and Australia because of the power of the web. My masterminds I've kept local, so I've tended to focus more on a local entrepreneur and creative locally, because I love to start my masterminds with food. I think food is a great way just to build a rapport and to break down some of ego. When you're eating at the same table, it brings people together. I have a great little office out in the country. It's on about 3 acres of land, and I'm able to walk and do go out for a walk, often listen to a podcast on my lunch and do videos on Instagram stories out there, because it's so scenic, it's beautiful, it's where I get to breathe, it's where I can be creative. Typically, probably like on Mondays, I have something called Mark Mondays, so I don't tend to do mentoring sessions. This is where I read, I journal, and I reflect. And it's literally, I'm having a one-to-one with myself, because I believe the power of reflection is the greatest weapon for personal growth. So Mondays are called Mark Mondays, and I keep them fairly sacred. Yeah, it's what I probably call a soul sabbatical, where I just kind of get right with myself. I listen to my heart and how I'm feeling, and I'm reflecting on the week to come in terms of where I really want to bring my A game. What's my real focus for this week? And just taking time, I guess, to listen and be quiet. So Mondays are quite structured in terms of that, but within the structure, there's huge amounts of fluidity. And then Tuesday, Thursday, Friday are pretty similar in terms of I have regular mentoring sessions at certain points through the day. Wednesdays tend to take more of a spin. Typically, though I haven't been doing this religiously more recently, but still practice this as a rule of thumb. I have 3 children, and so I alternate between the 3. Every week I'll take one of them out for some one-to-one time, and I book that in like a meeting, and it helps my children appreciate, I guess, the work that I do, because when they say, Dad, what are you doing today? And I'm like, well, I've got a meeting, and they're like, what, like me and you? So they get to understand it, and it protects that time, and it helps me really develop a close relationship with them. And I tend to do it on Wednesday, because I head over to the studio in Coventry to do my radio show every Wednesday, which is from 4 till 6. Saturdays tend to be, I guess for me, in the sense of, I play a lot of sports, so I tend to play football on a Saturday. I may even go and watch a game, and then I tend to go out with some friends on Saturday evening. And then Sundays are called Sephton Sundays, and these days are days with the family and friends where I just unplug. I just make sure that my family are priority. So there is some structure in my days, and I kind of enjoy some of the routine, but I always like to keep, the ability to flex at the forefront of, my days.
Yeah. So being a fan of alliteration and being slightly OCD, I'm quite impressed that you've been called Mark Sephton, so you can use the Mark Mondays and the Sephton Sundays. If you're called something else, it wouldn't have worked so well, would it?
No, yeah. I mean, I think, yeah, it's great that I could do that, but yeah, I think I would have to try and work out some kind of way that it connected with other people's names. So if people want me to have a go, they can drop me a message.
Excellent. So it's interesting. It sounds, as you say, it does sound structured. It also sounds fluid, as you've described, which is interesting that, for two quite opposite concepts. So take us into a day. So do you have a particular routine? And I guess Mondays will be different to the other days, but do you have that sort of morning ritual routine thing in your life?
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because I think the reason why I'm routine is because I believe in being intentional. And so if I do something, it's one of the reasons why I don't actually drink, Joe, is because of the fact that I want to make sure that every decision I make, I'm making it from a place of, intentionality.
Yeah.
And the thing that I love about routine is the fact that you can measure, and I get a kick out of measuring my own performance. And yet I love being unshackled, and I love being free and expressive. I don't need to know all the answers, but I do kind of enjoy having the answers in terms of measuring. But I think, for me, the routine that I do take is I read 10 pages of a book every day. So I kind of get to my office around 8:15, and I tend to read a devotional, and then I read 10 pages of a book and maybe an article from a favorite magazine. And then I do a little bit of a workout, tend to just work my arms in my office, just getting my mind set, and then obviously just getting my body tuned. And I think, it's always good that if you're creating a habit, that you are changing the environment. So actually I have 2 desks in my office. So I actually read on one desk, and then I do my work on another. Yeah. And it just really helps you get into that zone in terms of, this is my reading time, this is the space that I go. And I think when we make a physical adjustment, that actually really helps us mentally. There's loads of trigger habits that I've worked with clients before and in my own life, like when you're brushing your teeth, you're just saying you can't say out loud because it'll go everywhere, but you're saying in your mind what you're grateful for. Or it might be that you just spend those 2 minutes praying or meditating. So obviously the trigger is the fact that brushing your teeth. You can do it for all sorts of things. Like the average person goes to the bathroom 7 times. You can't do this when you're in a restaurant, though. It'd be quite humorous, wouldn't it? But every time you go to the bathroom, you get down and do 10 press-ups or whatever. Yeah. And it just creates these little triggers that create a new habit. But in terms of like a morning routine, reading 10 pages, reading a devotional, doing a workout, all before 9 o'clock, that's kind of very typical of me. It is something that I do because I think if you don't make time for things, it doesn't happen. So it's not me trying to create a life that's really religious and mundane, but I do think 80% of success is doing, the difficult and the boring, and the challenging. Most people aren't successful because if it doesn't feel good, they don't do it. We live in a society which is all about whether it feels good, then do it. And we've lost the stomach and the art to actually act first, and then sometimes feelings come after that, because we live in a society that's convenient, and it's like spoon-fed. Everything in the world that we live in now is about convenience, online banking, and there is a time, when we all want convenience, me included. I would pay the extra airfare to fly, first class, business class, so I can get through all the queues before anybody else. Sometimes it does pay to be, convenient, but I think sometimes we do lose the fact that we tend to be moved by our emotions and not by our actions. And so that's kind of why I kind of read. It is work for me. I read because I know that it impacts me and it increases my vocabulary and helps me understand more. But when I come to a vacation, I don't read because for me it is work. You know, I literally, when I'm on vacation, I do diddly squat. You know, I'm just in the moment.
Yeah. So it intrigues me as to what you do at the end of the day. So do you have a particular sort of close down of the office, and do you have a particular sort of deadline to stop working, or is it more fluid than that?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes when you're obviously working for yourself, you can't always be as structured as to what time you want to go home, especially if you have clients that require you to work, particularly after they've already done a full day's work. So you do have to be flexible. I hate traffic, Joe, and so I tend to leave my office at 4:30 most days because I just cannot stand getting stuck in traffic. And I think it's one of the perks of working for yourself is the fact that I can get to my door before anybody else leaves their office at 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm probably not as structured during the end of my days in terms of leaving the office. I mean, in terms of at night, I always power down by 9 p.m. So regardless of where I'm at, I will endeavour to be powering down at 9 o'clock, getting off the electronics. That's when I tend to sit down and write my gratitude diary. So I tend to write down 2 or 3 things that I'm grateful for. And then I also do this thing with clients where I measure their joy levels. And so it's really simple, really. I do it alongside the gratitude. But I get clients to score from 1 to 10 their joy level. And let's say 10 is really joyful and 1 is depressed. And then I just get people to write a few points as to why they've scored it that way. And then when I do this with clients for like 3 weeks, I start to see patterns, and then I help them in terms of increasing the tasks or the people that bring them high levels of joy, and equally reduce or eradicate the projects, the clients, the people that result in low levels of joy. So that's something that I've done for the last 3 years, you know, just looking at trying to create that 1 or 2% of my life that really can make a difference and put me in the right, you know, mental framework. You know, things happen to us all the time, which are sometimes difficult to understand, and we all deal with things differently.
Yeah.
But I've realized, you know, for the last probably 4 or 5 years that your mind is a muscle and you've got to work it out. And it doesn't mean bad things won't happen, but how you deal with them and your ability to ward off and strengthen and hold on to your own conviction when things are tough really helps, you know, by creating these habits that are about really, you know, affecting your mind. Because the only way to get into your mind is really by what you're listening to and who you're listening to and who you're allowing to speak into your life, what you're looking at, what you're reading, what you're absorbing through your eyes. You know, it's the environments that you put yourself in, the situations. You know, these are all the things that impact our mind, and we've got to be a lot more critical and a lot more intentional about what we're listening to, what we're looking at. That's why we're seeing so many issues with mental health, you know, because we're being bombarded, and we need to take back control and realize, you know, everything really falls on the mind, the battlefield of the mind. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. Let's change the subject a bit, although there is a link to that. You talk about, you know, sort of things overwhelming people. What about getting things done? I mean, as we said, you sound like you have quite a lot of structure, and intentional actions are really key and important for you. So how do you manage your time in terms of getting things done? How do you make sure that you don't get overwhelmed and you can leave the office at 4 o'clock or 4:30?
Well, you know, it's something that I've been talking about for a while, but actually I don't manage my time, Joe, and I'm never late. I mean, I hate lateness. I'd rather be, you know, I'd rather be an hour early than a minute late, sort of thing. And I think, you know, for me, the key, and people say to me, Mark, how do you do all that you do? because I actually feel there is enough time in the day. And the reason why I say that, and it's really simple, but people have to shift their understanding here, is I don't manage my time, I manage my energy. And what I mean by that is I have 3 filters, and you can adapt these 3, or you can come up with your own. In every situation, whether it's hanging out with somebody, whether it's taking on a new client, whether it's taking on a new project or opportunity, my questions are, am I good at this? The second one is, does this excite me? And the third one is this going to take me to where I want to go? And if it doesn't answer yes on all them, then actually I don't commit to it and I don't do it. So the only things that I'm doing in my life are the things that I love, the things that I'm good at, and the things that are going to take me to where I want to go. The reason I'm doing this podcast with you is because I'm good at them, I like them, and I believe that if my story can continue to inspire just one person, then I'm winning. Yeah. And so that for me is really the crux of how you are able to deliver on all that you want to do when you become bullish and aware of your own vision, your own purpose, knowing what you're good at, knowing what excites you, and not being dragged to and fro just because somebody's willing to pay you X amount of money for something that, your bank balance may enjoy it, but actually you don't enjoy it, and actually has a negative impact because your experience with your client is that they thought, well, that was okay, Mark, but I've had better, or I think I could get better elsewhere. So I think it's really important that we become very mindful of the fact that we shouldn't just be committing to something just because somebody's willing to pay us for it. We need to be bullish in terms of our own value and what we really want out of our life.
So tell me a bit more about how that works for perhaps people who are new in their businesses, or people who frankly need that money and have a difficulty in making that choice as a result, because it sounds absolutely the right thing to do, but I can just see where compromises come in, or where people don't do it because there's a need or a desperation to be earning whatever money, regardless of whether it fits that criteria or not. How do you help people to think through how to do that themselves without being destitute?
Yeah, no, I understand. I do understand what you're saying. I think but I think if you're at that point of being desperate, people can feel that through your branding, through the way that you communicate, and actually it puts people off anyway. I guess when I've considered some of the some of the problem points of clients, often when I'm speaking to them about their business and asking them, what is causing you frustration, most of the time it is their clients. And when I look at what are the issues, it's often around clients not paying or being late with payment. And so you create all this kind of aggro and pain where it seems like the same clients are demanding 80% of you, all the time. And you get stuck because, they're the ones that seem to be your biggest client in terms of bringing money into your business. But at every point, when I've gave them the courage to actually let them go, it's resulted in them bringing in, 3 times the amount of business into their own business without half the aggro that they were getting from, the one client. So while it doesn't necessarily address the question that you've asked me right on the nail, I'm hoping that in terms of realizing the fact that sometimes if you do work with somebody just because you're willing to take money from them, they're the exact reason why you end up really not enjoying your job and enjoying your business, because you've already recognized the fact that they're hard work and it isn't aligned. And for me, you can't put a value on that. I would much rather be doing what I love with the people that I love doing it with, and even if that means having a sacrifice in terms of being a bit more patient to go on a summer's holiday, or wanting to upgrade your home, then I've always taken that road, and that's always served me, because you can't pay for happiness, you can't pay for joy. But I think there will be probably times where, if it's just for a season, where you might bite the bullet and everybody's situation is different. But from experience, yeah, when you just take people on, just for the sake of them working, and paying, for your services, it's never always gone down too well.
No, I think it causes an issue around productivity and making stuff happen as well, because you tend to procrastinate on those things because either they're difficult customers or you don't want to do whatever it is, or it's just difficult for one of many reasons. So yeah, I get what you're saying with that. So what about technology then? You've talked about sort of asking yourself questions to determine whether you should be doing stuff. What do you use to help you to do that stuff better? Have you got any tools or apps or things that you use that you'd recommend to other people?
Well, I love Flipboard because I like to read, and obviously with my radio show I have to be quite focused in terms of giving people relevant business news, and I love to kind of like read about mindset and personal development, because that's the kind of the area that I'm in. Flipboard, it enables you to kind of almost create your own newspaper, so you can actually get Flipboard to stream just the information that's important to you, like entrepreneurship. Anybody that writes about entrepreneurship, rather than scrolling through all the news and having to go through all the horrible stories that are happening in the world, it literally just streams your likes into like a newspaper. So that's definitely like one that I love. There's an app called 24Me, which is been designed by my friend Liat Mordecai in Israel. Israel's great for technology and developing apps, and 24Me is just a great way just to schedule and track like tasks, and it just really helps in terms of organize your day. So I don't use it religiously, but it's certainly been a tool that's helped me, so it's definitely worth checking out, and it is free. Cool. I think they do have a paid one as well, but 24Me is a good one. Another app that I use a lot is an app called BizCard, which is basically an electronic business card, and again that's free. But it means when you go to events, you're never without, because it's always on your phone, and it's brilliant because you can do absolutely everything with it. And when when you send them the email with your contact list, they literally press a button and it streams all the information into their contact list, like social media channels, your address, everything. It's just it's gold, and I love that. So that's probably the ones that I use like religiously.
Yeah, that sounds really cool. I'll have to check that one out, definitely.
Yes, BizCard, so it's double Z.
Lovely, thank you.
Yep.
So you've talked a bit already about some of the things that I'd ask you about around keeping healthy. You've talked about some of your sort of routines, and I guess you'd call them rituals, and you've talked about regularly walking and doing a bit of exercise. What other things are you doing to make sure that you keep healthy?
Yeah, I mean, I'm mindful of health. I have a lot of clients that are in nutrition, mindful of the fact that I'm 35, and things start to change. But it's true, isn't it, Joe? And you being 21, you've still got to experience this.
Well, exactly.
But I think, for me, it's more recovery. I think, I've played football since I was 6 years old, and I still play every Saturday in an 11-a-side league. And, that's something that I always kind of look forward to. And I tend to train on a Tuesday most weeks. So that's definitely, it doesn't feel like exercise though, because I love that game. I think it's quite funny though, the fact that you've got 22 men chasing one ball. It's almost like you'd feel like you'd give every man a ball and it would be more enjoyable. But it's quite funny when I think of it. But I just love the dynamics, and so that really keeps me, focused. I drink a lot of water. I probably still not drinking. I think it's 3 liters. I probably drink 2, but you'll always see me with water on me. That's something that I've kind of has become a lifestyle when I did a boot camp about 2 years ago. Because I don't believe in diets or fads. I believe in lifestyle changes. Yeah. So for me, unless I plan to never eat chocolate again in my life, then I don't see the point of giving it up. The opportunity is really to minimize or reduce how much chocolate I may eat,
Yeah.
I've always had a sweet tooth. I already said that I don't drink. So I'm mindful of like the foods that are good for me, like fruits and vegetables, and thankfully I like them. I do like my food, so I do tend to be mindful of the amount of exercise that I need. I've got a Fitbit, which, I think, just in terms of accountability, when I first got this, it was like, if my target was 10,000 steps, and when I got home, I'd done 8,000, then it would make me go out for a walk around the block, a couple of times just to get to that 10,000. So I think if there's little things like that can help.
Mm-hmm.
Though I wouldn't say that, I wouldn't say that I'm a picture of health in terms of, some of these ripped, really focused individuals. I'd say I'm a normal person who has a reasonable understanding in terms of nutrition and eating right and exercising. But I definitely think there's more growth even for me, on a personal level. To be able to fine tune and improve my own health, but I do realize how important it is, and the importance of energy, in terms of mental energy and physical energy, especially with children around.
Yes. So you've talked a lot about personal development and reading, and that those things are important to you already. Tell us a bit more about that. Perhaps include some books or films, music, whatever that you would recommend as well, either for improvement or just inspiration.
Well, I love a good film. I must admit, I don't really watch TV, but I love films. And in both my books, Inside Job and Plot Twist, I've actually referenced a couple of films, and I've basically shared what I've taken away from those meanings. In my latest book, Plot Twist, the two movies that I talk about is the film The Way, which is about the Camino Santiago. Have you seen that film, Joe?
I haven't, no. Tell me more.
Oh, Joe, it's epic. Everybody should watch that. But basically, it's based on a true story of a father who's played by Martin Sheen. He's an eye doctor, and Emil Estevez is his son, and he ends up dropping out of uni, Emil Estevez, and much to his father's displeasure. How many of us have been through that, where our parents haven't been happy with our choices? And he decides he's going to go to the French Pyrenees. So basically, the Camino Santiago is when you walk from the French Pyrenees across to Spain.
Right.
And he goes and he does this, much to his father's disapproval. And he ends up being killed in a natural disaster along that trek. And the French government get in touch with Martin Sheen while he's on a golf course in America, and he immediately goes over there. And the plan was just to bring his body back or whatever. But he ends up getting his son cremated and finishes this walk, scattering his son's ashes along the way. But the beautiful thing about the film is the fact that loads of people walk this Camino for different reasons. Some for finding purpose, some because they're dying, some because they want to lose weight. And it brings in all these different characters. One of them is James Nesbitt. There's this real funny Dutch guy. There's this lady. But what happens is they're doing life together on this trek. And it's amazing because they actually bring healing and purpose to each other. But it is such an incredible movie. It's a great movie. It has so many metaphors that I wanted to pull out, that I'd experienced, that I wanted to put into my book. So that was one. And the other one that I wrote about in Plot Twist was Unbroken, which is it was directed by Angelina Jolie, which is about a prisoner of war called Louis Zamperini. And I heard Louis speak when he was, I think he was 93. I think he died last July. And this is a great film of a true story of a prisoner of war who starts off with his childhood. He came from Italian descendants, and I think they were in New York, and he'd get in trouble, getting in with the wrong crowd, and was renowned for police chasing him across New York. And he ended up being called out by his older brother and said, Louis, you've got a great gift to run. And so they actually kind of used his ability to run and actually get him on the track and field, and he actually represents the USA in the Olympics. I think he places 7th, but he does break the record for running the fastest lap during that Olympics.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously then the war breaks out and he gets called up, to serve in the American Army, and his plane comes down and he's at sea. And he's at sea for, I think, 40 days with some crew, and a couple of them die, and they have to go through so many things, and they manage to get a hold of a Japanese warplane who just shoots at them, and they're surrounded by sharks, and it's all true story, and they ended up getting picked up eventually, and then he gets sent to a prisoner of war camp, and he's tortured. One scene is where he has all his fellow American soldiers lined up, and they all have to punch him, otherwise they'd be shot. And it's just the whole premise of Unbroken is he goes through so many extreme circumstances and situations, and yet the guy who's the prisoner of war officer, who's called the Bird, he isn't able to break him. And it's unbelievable, just the endurance, the mental grit. And again, I just take the things that I've learned because they're powerful metaphors. And I guess just one other film, which is from my first book, Inside Job, which is about, it's called Seabiscuit, which I love.
I've heard of that. Is that about horse racing? Yeah,
I mean, I'm not a big horse fan or even, watch racing, but the whole thing, I mean, Seabiscuit, it just, there's so many good things in there. One of the lines is, you don't throw a whole life away just because it's banged up a little. That's like one of the key messages. But Seabiscuit, he's the sire of Hardtack, who's known for, winning, and they have this little colt, and he ends up, sleeping for most of the day, and he goes through different owners, and he gets sold for a rock bottom price, and then eventually he gets, bought by some guys. And the thing is they say, he's so banged up, he doesn't know how to be a horse. They used to use him to be able to give confidence to the horses by making him lose.
Right.
He's so used to walking in a circle that when he races, he races in zigzags. And you've got this whole scene, and then Tobey Maguire, who plays Red Pollard, who's the jockey, he's going through his own issues of identity and, not fitting in, and how they come together. And again, they heal each other, they work together, and then they create something of a legacy by being champions. It's just, I love a good movie, Joe, as I'm sure you can tell.
Yeah, I can tell. Yeah, I'm liking the idea of the last one. Not so keen on the middle one. I don't really do all that violence. I tend to avoid it, but it sounds very interesting, definitely, if you can cope with the violence.
Yeah, I mean, it is violent and it isn't. It's what happened. The brutality of the world we live in, and it's not all just constant violence. There's enough there for you to be able to breathe a little and maybe even smile. It's not all just brutal, but yeah.
I read books that have lots of violence in them, but I'm not so keen at watching it. But yeah, it does sound good. Yeah, because I always think my imagination is
they're all epic. No, they're all epic. They should all be watched, those films, definitely.
Yeah. Lovely, thank you. So we're coming towards the end of the podcast, and I have a couple of questions that I ask everybody. The first one is about, what about those days where things don't go right, where whatever, the best will in the world, the stuff that you've put together that we've already talked about for making things go well, but still it doesn't quite work. How do you deal with that? How do you cope with that?
Well, I think first of all, we all have days like that. So I think when you have things happen, it's almost like it's more reassuring the fact that we all have them. And I think sometimes when we kind of make room for the fact that things like this will happen, it does help us, I guess, deal with it better. I think the second thing, which always sounds a little flippant when I encourage clients and even myself to do it, but when you go through a difficulty, I always ask my clients to say, or ask themselves, am I going to die from this? And if you're not, then it's almost like get some perspective on the challenge ahead.
Yeah.
And then thirdly, I think, for me, your current circumstances are temporary and not permanent. And that goes for success and failure. If you think of everything that you've been through, both good and bad, you're not there now. Time moves on, life happens, You either grow beyond your current pain, or you just get into a different shift, or eventually you get healing, or whatever. So I think it's really remembering that what you're going through now is temporary, that it isn't permanent. And sometimes I think that's important, because we all go through seasons where things aren't going to plan, things seem tough, they don't make sense, it's painful, it's uncomfortable, and then things start to shift, because you become more aware, you grow in strength, you may increase your own support network. So I think it's really just being mindful of the fact that when things don't go to plan, let's reflect on why, let's be responsible, let's only kind of put our energy into the things that we can control. Let's spend an awful lot of time and energy focused on the things we can't. Like, we can't change the weather. There's certain things that are out of our control. And I think we just got to be a little bit more, take a step back and kind of see the bigger picture. So that's really kind of how I deal with it.
So just sort of think, things do get better and things don't last. So sort of respond from that place rather than dwelling on it, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I always think that it's important to reflect on why it didn't go to plan, whether there's something on you. Did I say the wrong thing? Did I act too soon? Did I not act quick enough? So I think, you've got to take the learnings and reflect. But equally, I think when situations and life does happen, like when you lose a loved one or something extreme happens, I think, it's important just to be able to kind of be kind to yourself, take a little step back and realize that it is a part of life that we all go through these challenges, that none of us have it all together. And just being mindful of the fact that we all have seasons. And in the inside job, I talk about setbacks, and I kind of quote and said, the only place, the only people that don't get flat tires are those who don't drive. And if we're going to drive anywhere and journey anywhere in life, it's inevitable we're going to get a flat tire. There's rubbish on the road, there's glass, there's nails, there's all sorts, and the only people that don't get those flat tires are the people that don't drive. And I think that's the same in life.
Yes, I like that concept. So last question then, a day when you end the day knowing that you've had the chance to live more, and I always say that that's about getting to do the stuff that you really want to do, and not the stuff that you feel you need to do or should do. I guess this is going to be probably an easier one for you, given what you've already said. What does that day look like?
What does a day look like that where I feel like I've really lived? Yeah. I think for me, because I'm intentional, and there is days where I think, Matt, you really gave the best of yourself. My kind of mission statement is to positively influence all that I meet, to get inside people's heads, to inspire change and growth. I want to start fires in the hearts of men and women who become so focused on their own purpose that they will not compromise or even quit despite discouragement, setbacks, and obstacles. And so if I can kind of create a life which I feel is impacting people, that it isn't fluff, that it is generally making a difference in the lives of people, whether it comforts them, gives them clarity, increases their confidence, then I get a big kick out of that. Equally as well, I guess from a personal point of view, I love, there's certain things that I love experiencing and doing. I love a massage. Every couple of weeks I have a massage just to be able to unplug and reward myself and take some time just to, breathe. I do believe in working hard, but equally I believe in breaks leading to breakthroughs, and actually sometimes to get ahead we have to stop. So often I think, when it's been a life or a day that I feel like I've lived well, it's a mixture of, giving the best of who I am, and equally, I guess, doing the things that I love that don't seem like work, but are more reward for, I guess, my ability to keep going, even when, times are difficult. Yeah.
Lovely. Thank you. Really appreciate that answer. Yeah. So how can people find out more about you and connect with you and find out more about your books and so on?
My website's marksephton.com. I'm very receptive on social media. keys in the title being social. I've met some of the most incredible people. I've sold loads of books and had loads of clients through social media by just priding myself in building relationships and actually caring for people. It really racks me off, Joe, when people kind of vomit on social media about all they do without any context or rapport or ability to say hello or engage. We see it all the time on LinkedIn where people, they request a connection, you accept it, and then they just vomit, all over you, and there's no kind of rapport, there's no relationship, but with me it's kind of, I'm very much people orientated. When I ask people, like, how are you, it always makes me smile when people come back to me and say, how can I help you? And I'm like, well, actually, I'm not reaching out for help. I'm reaching out just to say hello and to build that connection. And people can probably do that through Twitter and Instagram. I'm having quite a bit of fun with Instagram at the moment. It used to be all about Twitter for me. I have a good following on Twitter, but I'm enjoying Instagram a little. I think it's it always seems a little insincere, some of the comments, but it's because a lot of people are trusting their accounts to people that are just building up their own following, and it isn't the most sincere, I don't think, in terms of comments. Some of them don't even add up when they say, it's a great picture and it's actually a video. I'm just like, what the heck's that? It's like, that's not even a picture, know. And but I think, social media wise, Twitter's at Sephton Mark. It's the same handle for Instagram. All my social media channels are on my website at marksefton.com.
And this is Sephton with a PH, isn't it? Sephton with a PH.
Yeah, like an elephant. Yeah, PH.
And how can people listen to your radio show?
Talk Business. If we have live guests, which I do most of the time, they can stream it and listen to it via our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/RP Talk Business. If you're not on Facebook or you just want to hear the audio, then most people stream it via radioplus.org.uk. And the channel is also on the TuneIn app, which is Radio Plus 101.5 FM.
Lovely. Thank you. Thanks a lot, Mark. Yep. I really appreciate your time today. It's been great talking to you. And such a lovely sort of theme of development and calmness throughout the interview. So thank you.
No, thank you, Joe. I hope you've enjoyed it.
Use your power to live more.
All this information is available in the show notes on the website powertolivemore.com/ in this case 45. And the website is a place to go if you want to find out how I can help you to improve your productivity, organisation, well-being, energy and resilience, your power to live more. And that's where I say it's about doing more of what you want to do. I've spoke on the last podcast about the course that I put together over the Christmas New Year break, and I'm just really excited about the sort of impact it's having on the people that are going through it at the moment. One of the options within the course as you go along on Teachable, which is where it's hosted, is to place comments on each of the lectures, as they call them, so each of the sections in answer to some of the questions, but mainly just to sort of collaborate on some of the thoughts that are coming through as a result of going through the programme. So there's no need to share with other people, but some people are doing so, and I'm literally on a daily basis going in and having chats with people that I haven't met who are in the programme, who are really benefiting from some of the exercises that are within the course. So it's been really exciting to see people moving through that, and we're just getting to the end of the 4th week since I launched it, which means that people are into the last section of content now. So it is quite exciting to see them working through, and then other people obviously who've signed up and not actually taken any action at all yet, which I get because I've done things like that myself on a regular basis. So that's one of my jobs at the moment, is to encourage people to start having a look at that content, because once you get stuck into it, there's loads in there to help you to really think about simplifying your life and getting to do more of the things that you want to do, which is what a lot of people are looking to do this year. I think it seems everywhere I turn, simplify and creating a more simple life seems to be very topical. So if that's something that interests you, then please do go to powertolivemore.com/simplify free, and you can still get into the course as my gift to you as a podcast listener. So please do that. Other than that, if you'd like to go to the show notes for this show, again, the link is powertolivemore.com/45. And I look forward to speaking to you next time, getting quite pleased about the fact that I'm consistently publishing these on a weekly basis. We've got some that were in the bag a while ago that I've been wanting to publish for a while. And I've actually had already probably about 3 new interviews this side of the year, and more in the diary. So plenty of great content to share with you over the coming weeks. So as I said again, if you want to go to the show notes for this show, it's powertolivemore.com/45, and we'll speak to you next time.
Use your power to live more.